got to be flexible and
Yeah.
fluid in a business because things do change.
All of the things that I'm doing now that are successful are because I'm doing it with other people.
You know, it's like opening up this jewellery box and you see all this like glistening stuff. You can see it all, you can take it all. Whereas if you just stick to the same kind of thinking, the same kind of people all the time, you're never going to get these rich jewels.
I'm Mike Harris and I help businesses to successfully grow their profit and turnover. In the last year alone, I have helped over 20 companies at least double in size. And I work with a mixture of firms for small, medium and large businesses, including startups and multinationals. Every business grows differently. There's no single playbook. The best lessons come from those who have been there before and know what really works, which is why I'm delighted to be exhibiting and speaking at the Festival of Entrepreneurs, the UK's new national event for ambitious business owners. I'll be sharing the lessons I've learned about growth alongside founders of companies such as Lush, Ted Baker, Grenade and Remedy Health. The dates are the 8th to the 9th of October. It's at the NEC Birmingham and you can still get free passes from the Festival of Entrepreneurs website. I'll be there. Come and meet me at our stand. So this week, to tie in with this fantastic event, we have a very special edition about what it means to our special guests to be an entrepreneur.
For me, it all basically what it boils down to is that, you know, in this country, we have a ridiculous number of, and don't ask me to quote it, of entrepreneurs and business owners, but how many actually get to scale their company and become the next unicorn, you know, etc. When you look at it compared to something like America, it's tiny. And you look at their attitude to, you know, to being an entrepreneur and what it can mean in this country, especially what's happened, you know, without getting political, it seems to be really stifling, you know, that free enterprise is the phrase I was looking for. So, you know, we're all in the business of bringing these people in to not just inspire those who are trying to get to where these guys are, the Lushes, the Grenades, etc., but to actually break down, you know, so what is it that you've done that's gotten you to there? Because yes, there must be an element of luck in there, but there's also would have been decisions that you've made. There would have been leadership decisions. There would have been strategic decisions that you've made, be that non-intentional even at the time, whereas other super intentional. But can we break that down? And I know that, for example, like Richard Harvey from Home Serve got, you know, a book that he's launching, which is like the 9 Steps to Becoming a Billionaire, which is obviously a very catchy title, but to get someone to distill their knowledge like that, I think is going to be fascinating.
I think everything that I've done in the business has been kind of out of my comfort zone. So networking, social media, things like this, it's out of my, it's
outside of mine, and we're on episode 25 or whatever. It's still outside of my comfort zone.
You're a pro. You're a pro.
No, I'm not. No.
But it's just, but you've got, that's the way you're going to grow though. So if I just did what I can do and that's it, I stopped myself, I wouldn't be growing. So everything that I do, it might not look like it, and LinkedIn might look great, but I don't like posting about myself. I don't feel comfortable, but I do it because I have to. I network because I have to. And things do get easier.
You go to the House of Lords because you have to. Mentioned earlier that she was at the House of Lords. When was that? Last week?
Friday, yes.
Friday, yeah. Name dropping.
As you do.
As you do, yeah.
But
because you have to.
Because you have to. You had to use the tube. That was scary.
Well, that's scary.
But it's, being at the House of Lords was, you know, it's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was, again, I did it because you getting out of the comfort zone. There's so many things that I've done. And if you don't, I think we stop ourselves. It's our thought. I think we touched on that earlier. We stop ourselves from doing things because we tell ourselves, well, I'm not good enough, or I haven't got the experience.
It didn't work last time, or whatever.
Exactly. Our experiences, you know, we stop ourselves. But if we just clear those thoughts and just look at what it is, okay, I've got to travel to London. Okay, I'll get a train. That's okay. That's fine. I'm going to turn up. There's going to be people. I'm just going to talk. It doesn't matter if I don't know anybody. You know, you just cut things up into smaller chunks.
Out
You
of the way,
realise,
really important that is.
yeah, and it's not as bad as you think.
Yeah.
But in the moment, sometimes we just tell ourselves, I can't do that. But yeah, comfort zones are things that we do fall into, but breaking those barriers and coming out of those comfort zones really lets you excel.
I think it's trying to do it all on my own.
Right.
I think that's been the biggest challenge. Not asking for help, thinking I can figure it all out myself.
Yeah.
This is all just coming out now, naturally.
Yeah.
But I think so. And I've been going through a period of reflection lately, and I've done that exercise. And again, it's literally like a couple of pages for a business plan that I have for, and that encompasses all the things that I'm doing, but literally going, grading what gives me the greatest pleasure, what gives me the greatest reward, what do I want to do more of, what do I want to do less of, how can I not make the same mistakes that I've made before, and all of the things that I'm doing now that are successful are because I'm doing it with other people, which is really interesting. I literally just looked at the commonality and went, that's really interesting.
And
I've always been this way, that if somebody almost tells me I can't do something, I then say, I'll show you, and I can. So I've always had this almost rebellious streak. I've also had this this part of me, this projector, where I almost can see the big picture, and I can see all these dots, and then I'm like, well, that's not working. And so I just like, well, let's just fix it, or let's just change it. And I always say to businesses, unless it's a law or a legislation, everything you do in your business is make believe. You've just made up these rules, so you can just change them. Like, nothing's going to happen. And so I challenge people, because that's the way I've gone through it. If I don't like something, let's shift it, or learn from it, or change it. But then when last year I got diagnosed with ADHD, and everything made sense. Why I'm a risk taker, why I think differently, why I get really excited about new things and get hyper focused, and then once it's embedded, I get bored and I move on. But I think when you invite people with neurodiversity, in fact any kind of diversity, into your organisation, it's almost like you've got this magic key to get different perspectives and ideas and ways of thinking. And, it's like opening up this jewellery box and you see all this like glistening stuff. You can see it all, you can take it all. Whereas if you just stick to the same kind of thinking, the same kind of people all the time, you're never going to get these rich jewels. So my newly found neurodiversity has got a lot to answer to. But equally, the amount of people in leadership or entrepreneurial businesses who have got ADHD is phenomenal. So maybe we're here to change the world.
Maybe. I mean, I just thought I just had a kind of rock and roll philosophy to life, which is about challenging and doing it something differently. So, maybe I should go and have a check of myself, really.
Cause, it's liberating.
Because to be perfectly honest, I'm the same. I'm always asking, why do you do it that way? Have you thought about doing it somewhere differently? And there's a bit of me that likes just playing devil's advocate to challenge and often there's a really good reason for it, and therefore you don't want to change it. But equally, quite often it's just because that's the way it's always been done.
You got to kick it around a bit to figure it out.
And just because that's the way you've always done it. If you want to improve, you're not going to improve hugely if all you do is what you've done previously. So
take a leaf out of the successful media companies that are out there. Look at a Netflix, look at an Amazon, etc. When they launch something, they usually launch with a series, a limited series. Okay, so you hook someone in, but instead of them watching that and then going, oh, there's nothing else, and going elsewhere to the competition, that you hook them in, and then you've got a whole library of content that they can dive into and fully immerse themselves, because you want to take them from a casual listener to a follower if it's audio, or a subscriber if it's video. You want them to click that button. So for me, it's launch with that. And again, look, they still say 50% of podcasts are found through organic search. So if people can't find your podcast by searching online, then you're missing 50% of your potential audience. So if you've got, for example, 100 followers and you send them and there's one piece of content there, what's the maximum you're going to get? 100. If you send them there and you've got 4, 5, 6 episodes, you're 4, 5, 6xing your potential downloads, meaning you could gate crash the podcast to get in the charts for your category. Yes, there's a bit of ego in there as well, because everybody likes to take the screenshot and look at my number one, look at my top 10 podcast or whatever. But more than that is that you've then got visibility, right? You will then start attracting other casual listeners, viewers, who you can turn into super fans for your podcast. If you haven't got that visibility, if you hadn't launched with more than one episode, it's not going to happen.
You've got to be flexible and fluid in a business, because things do change. Your environment changes, politics change, costs change. So you've got to be constantly looking at things. But those core things, why you're doing what you're doing and what your values are, should remain intact. Because they change, your business changes.
Yes.
People will view the business differently as well. I'd have to change the name of it. It's got to represent what it says on the tin.
Exactly. On the box.
On the box. On the wicker basket. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I think I sort of fell into it, if I'm honest. It wasn't something I planned and sat down and thought, right, this is the avenue I want to do. But I was really lucky that I was very busy with presenting and choreographing and running the business. And somebody one day said to me, can I just have a chat with you? You seem to have it all's working. And I firstly said, well, that's not true. So we need to dispel that bit. Yeah.
Everything seemed very calm and smooth on top.
Absolutely. But what it did is that conversation, they were actually in quite a high profile business in Australia. And what it did was it really opened my eyes to the images that are coming out about us, the persona that we put out there. And we ended up having this conversation where I actually learned just as much as they did. But what happened was afterwards they said, you need to start doing this. You are giving confidence to me. You have really inspired me. And what I was doing was I was giving them tips, because they were saying, I'm really nervous. I have to stand up and speak in front of people. And I said, go and see a public speaking coach. Maybe that would be helpful. And they said, yeah, but I'm overall, I don't feel too confident. They said, I know my subject matter, but it's getting it out there, whether it's public speaking or on a podcast or however. And I sort of started thinking, this is something that I do, and I do it with my friends and whatever. And so I basically just sort of put the feelers out, and people started saying, oh yeah, could I come and see? And what I found is some people would come and see me and say, I need confidence because I've got to do a talk and I've got to speak in front of 100 people in my business. I'm really confident with what I've got to talk about, but it's the actual talking. It's the standing up on stage. And then some people would come with just more of a general, I just don't feel really confident in my decision making at the minute. And so I started doing it, and I just found it grew and grew and grew. And what I always find interesting is people, when I came back to the UK, people who message me, and it's very private, most people don't want necessarily anyone to know, will message me, and I might have met them at an event, I might have seen them at a business, and I'm thinking, wow, interesting. Because sometimes the people who we perceive as very successful, very confident, actually are maybe people putting in the most work. They are maybe working really hard on that. And I always say confidence is built. People will say to me, oh, you're so confident, I wish I could be like that. And so I wasn't always like this. It is a real building blocks, and our confidence gets knocked all the time. Every single one of us, you have those days where things don't go right and your confidence is not. So confidence is more than people think. People think, oh, you go in a room, you're confident, you're loud. It's not that at all. It's being so self-assured and having that self-belief. And I absolutely love it. It's such a great feeling when you have somebody who you've worked with who then goes on to fulfill whatever that ambition or that dream was. So.
One of the only ways that you can actually make a difference and stand out is using your personal brand, because people can copy your methodology, they can copy your words, they can copy your ideas, but they can't copy you.
No.
People feel that they know you when they've seen your face online, and it does help towards that know, like and trust. And apparently the brain can't tell the difference as to whether they've met you online or they've met you in real life. That's why when you see a famous person, sometimes you kind of go, do I know them? Do I know them from somewhere? Like, because you feel you know them already.
I've got a little anecdote about that. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a client's reception area, and this guy has come down the lift and he's coming out through security, and he goes, Mike Harris, and I think, who are you? I have no idea who you are. And he comes over and shakes me hand. He goes, I feel like I know you already. I see you on LinkedIn all the time. And so there you go. It just shows you.
It does happen.
I think it's one that I heard about a month or two ago, I think it was, by somebody called Myron Golden. And he said, all work works. Sometimes it works for you. Sometimes it works on you, but all work works. And for me, that just shattered so much, like, because I think too often you post something and like quick hits, or you set up a workshop and you don't really get the kind of turnout you were expecting, or you just do a big launch like you thought was going to be a big launch, and it's like, oh, it falls a bit flat, and you feel like, oh, maybe this is not working, maybe it's not for me. That changed it for me, because it helped me to see that life is compounding, right? It's like, it's not one big, because I think sometimes like the hero stories or the books have a lot of survival bias, right? They tell you, oh, it was amazing, it was plain sailing, it just kind of started an overnight success, and you're like, why is mine not overnighting? Like, I'm working so hard on this thing, why is it not churn? But when you realize that all work works, like, so sometimes even though you're not seeing the fruit immediately, it doesn't mean that the roots are not building, right? So it's realizing that as long as you're building based on your values and you're following the blueprint of what you believe your life's purpose is, then keep doing what you're doing. But of course, listen to the environment for signal and see if there's better ways to alter the sales of your sheep. But don't stop because you're not seeing immediate results, because all work works, right? Sometimes on you, sometimes for you, but it's working all the same. So,
Get the right structure. Critical to the success of any organisation is to have a robust, strong structure. But inevitably, the question is, do you pick the structure first and appoint the team to fit the structure, or do you get the best people possible and then look at forming the right structure around them? And the truth is, there is no right or wrong answer to that. Now, for me, I normally start with getting the best people. I feel that I've got the most opportunities to success if I've got the best people I possibly can. And then I will build the structure around them. I will look at what they're good at and put a structure accordingly. As an example of that, if I've got an operational guy who's very focused and really good at customer service and getting on with the clients, then the structure will reflect that. However, if I've got an operational guy who's very inward looking and is making sure that the delivery is first class and that the performance of the people in the business is first class, I may have to look in the structure of complementing that with somebody who's much more outgoing and much more customer focused. So as I say, you can quite often build a structure that will be different depending on who you put in place with the team that you're recruiting. And also remember that the structure that is right for today may not be right for tomorrow. So that might be literally in a few days' time, but more likely in a month's time or 6 months' time or a year's time or whatever. So it's important, as the business grows, the structure can grow with it. And also the structure is able to cope with the challenges and opportunities that arise. So make sure that the structure that you build is adaptable and is fluid. So why is this important? Well, the stronger the structure, the more your business will be able to cope with. The business will have a much wider span of control, and built-in flexibility will mean that you're not wrong-footed by the unexpected. Thank you everybody for watching. Hope you've liked it today and you've got a lot out of it. And I'll see you all soon on the Leaders and Strategy podcast, when we'll be talking about strategy, leadership and all things business. I'll see you then. Thanks.